And another thing. Still recouping from this day. I guess it's technically yesterday since we rolled past midnight for this, but if this is going up, this should go up right after that previous one. YouTube has limited me to 15-minute posts, and that's it. I'm not allowed to run a long one. I had a long one. It was an hour and 15 minutes or more. Um, and I hedged it a little bit with the consequences of not revealing what's going on and my various diagnoses, but I can't. I can't play this game with you guys. I'm being serious. This this isn't something casually done by most people. Let's just get it on the table. I have autism. I have inflammatory bowel disease of some kind. And they're suspicious that I might have Parkinson's disease now. That's what we're looking at right now. Now, I say some kind of inflammatory bowel disease because 17 years ago on my 30th birthday, I had literally in June, for 17 years ago, I'm 47 this year. 17 years ago, I had the worst case of sickness, and it just lasted and lasted. I weighed 298 pounds, roughly 298, 289, somewhere in that range. Fluctuated about for a little while. I got so sick that between June and October, I lost 140 pounds. Because I couldn't eat a meal without using the bathroom 12 times an hour after every meal, finishing up to the point where I'm looking in the bowl for my kidneys and my lungs. Like, that's excruciating. I spent years eating nothing but peas, carrots, poultry, every meal, every day. Having to eat every 4 hours because you could only eat small batches of food. When I went to the doctor for my first checkup in July that year, that I first had symptoms, they said it should go away on its own. In August, I had lost so much weight. I had lost probably 60 to 80 pounds by that point. They're like, huh, did you try some peppermint? And then left me on my own. And in September, when I'm calling desperate because I'm in so much pain and violently ill all the time, they stopped returning my calls. They left me on my own. I lost half my body weight in 6 months. I was 40 pounds underweight by the time I got my weight to stop dropping. And they just left me on my own. I fought tooth and nail to get them to set up a colonoscopy. And once they set that up, they're like, we're done. You have your appointment, and then that's it. I'm not talking to you for a while. So we did the colonoscopy. They took some biopsies. I was awake for part of it. I want to say most of it, but I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details. I do know that I heard them saying, like, you've got extra intestine in there. You've got extra feet of intestine. People like to say when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. But when it's a fucking zebra, don't think horses, because you're just going to hurt somebody trying to find a solution to the problem they're dealing with. trying not to swear in these. But I went through so much, and at the end of the day, what did they say for the results? They found inflammation. They found scarring, a little bit of scarring, not a lot of scarring, admittedly. They found some elevated white blood cell counts in the biopsies they took as they were in there. They said it's probably Crohn's. I said probably or is. They said it's Crohn's. I said how certain are you? I said about 80%. Like, well, what do we need to do to delineate whether or not this is Crohn's? I said it's Crohn's. And I'm like, but you said it's only 80% chance that it's Crohn's. And they said it's Crohn's. You'll have to take one of these pills you'll take 3 of these pills every day for probably the rest of your life to treat the inflammatory bowel disease that you've got. Cool. That's great to know. What are the side effects? They could stop your heart, could damage your kidneys and liver. I think I've actually managed to curtail a lot of my symptoms by just changing my food to a very restricted diet. But you're going to suffer more and more if you don't take these pills. I'm sorry, but I've had bad history with pills in the past where I've taken medications and had a dystonic reaction. I chemically induced Parkinson's in my 20s. Okay, so if you're not going to take the medications we recommend for you, there's not much more we can do for you. Fine. I went 5 years without seeing a doctor. I babied my system left and right. Highly restricted diet. Every week I'd introduce one new food for one bite and one meal. Then see how it goes for the rest of the week following that. And most of the time it did not go well. I suffered immensely through a lot of that problem. But I built up a safe list of foods for me to eat. And it worked for about 7 to 8 years. 7 to 8 years later, I started to have symptoms of gout. Ended up in the emergency room with a blood pressure of 80/40 because I passed out trying to get to the bathroom in so much pain from the gout. I had 2 years of gout-like symptoms off and on for a while. That was 10 years ago. I've not had a flare of gout since. I've had one issue of arthritis in a big toe when I wore sandals that were too tight and they rubbed wrong. But I have not had a flare of gout since. Should I have been diagnosed with gout then and I've just not had a relapse or another case? Or did I never have gout? If I never had gout, what was it I had? I don't know. Doctors don't seem to care to look into it any further. I'm never going to get a diagnosis of having gout as a condition to worry about. You know what also happened? I had a follow-up colonoscopy about 8, 9 years later. He said it's one of the healthiest colons they've ever seen. Was it in remission because of the way I'd babied it for 8 years? I don't know. Did they change my diagnosis of Crohn's? No. At the subsequent next colonoscopy 5 years after that, they started to say, like, I don't think it's Crohn's. So what is it? I don't know. So they diagnosed me. They revoked the diagnosis. And now I still have a condition that sometimes causes me complications and pain and suffering, but no diagnosis for what it is. Okay, cool. Is it a symptom of the migraines that I started to get recently? Was I having migraine issues that weren't occurring in my head? I was getting stomach migraines, as some doctor once potentially suggested as a possibility. I don't know. I'm never going to get a diagnosis for that. So to sit there and tell somebody that they need a diagnosis and they need the paperwork to show they have a condition, to get the help they need to regulate and manage their condition, That's just insulting. And it's worse because during a lot of that time where I was having times where I could function, like I had months where by carefully monitoring what I eat, when I eat it, I could go a whole day without any problems. Like I'd eat breakfast when I first wake up in the morning. I'd have a rough start to every morning. That's all I can say. I don't want to be too graphic about it. Rough start every morning. But for the 12 hours after breakfast, I was fine for easily 80% of my life after that instance of illness hit. Not a problem. I could go about life simply as if I was a normal functioning human being. But every now and then, without warning, without predictable measures, without any kind of indicator, I'd have a bad day. Sometimes I'd have a really bad day, in which case the days, 2 days after it were also bad days. Bad days was every meal I'd ate would make me sick. It just happens sometimes. That's just my life. That's the new normal. That's what I've settled into. But on those days where I didn't have any problems for a week or two, maybe even 3 weeks on end, without a single day going bad, you better believe I started to have imposter syndrome, doubting whether or not I had a problem or not. And so for somebody to come along and ask you for proof that you have a problem, we already doubt ourselves. But we have those days where our new normal involves suffering, pain, and misery. And we struggle to function in a world where that is our life. And to go through that struggle and not be able to get help when you need it. To not get accommodations that make it possible for you to do the good work, do the good job that you know you can do, if somebody would just give you a little grace to work around and with the problems you struggle with. That's all this is about. Nobody's getting clout for being different. I do not get the mindset of gatekeeping who gets to call themselves disabled or who gets to say they're struggling. So, yeah, I get a little frustrated and angry about it. And I'm running up on almost 15 minutes again, so they're probably going to restrict my ability to post more of this. So I think that's sort of where I'm going to end the rant. It's been a really bad day. To be told that you potentially have not only a digestive ailment that you've struggled with for 17 years, but to also be told that you not only have digestive inflammatory bowel disease, you're also neurodivergent and struggle to function in the world as it is. But you're also going to have to deal with the fact that now you're probably going to have about 10 years before you're an invalid and incapable of supporting and caring for yourself because of a neurodegenerative disorder. That's just a slap in the face. But it's also insulting when they can't diagnose you straight out. Like, do I have it or don't I? Like, I've had 2 different neurologists in the last 2 years. One says that there's not a problem with me, and the other one says I had a neurodegenerative disorder. You know, you're fine versus your brain's slowly dying trapped inside your skull, and there's nothing we can do to stop you becoming a vegetable on a seat, a shaking vegetable. Which is it? Don't know. It's already a struggle enough. Don't make it harder on the rest of us.